Stewardship Sunday is one of those Sundays that's either met with joy or terror by ministers across the country. One of my friends who's an associate pastor every year greets it with, "Oh dear God, what are they going to make me dress up as this year?" I think in the past 10 years they've been the Tin Man, an angel. It's terrible. And I say this as somebody who once came out in a devil costume as the anti-steward. There's a column called One of the Best Things About Generosity that was written by columnist Joshua Becker. And he said, when we give stuff away, we make the world a better place. Generous people feel better about themselves, Becker said. They report a greater sense of satisfaction and happiness. They build stronger relationships. Studies have even linked generosity to improve physical health. Giving also benefits the receiver, he writes. We improve their lives. We fight to overturn injustice. We offer an example to the world of a better way to live. But maybe the greatest benefit of generosity is the realization that we already have enough. And let me tell you, raising funds for a church or a temple or a sacred group of standing stones has always been a challenge because it never feels like we have enough, no matter what we have. In ancient Israel, the guidelines for giving sound today like something thought up by someone on a dare, by somebody who had maybe been smoking something with the sacrificial smoke. These are real guidelines. To give you an idea of how long this has been an issue. This is a translation, but this is dead on. I'm not ad-libbing. All men must tithe or give to others. Tithes are to be made up of corn, wine, and oil by law, and from fruit and vegetables by rabbinical law. But here's the deal. You can't just bundle it all up and bring it in. This is the quote. A farmer must harvest his crops and then separate out an amount between 1/40th and 1/60th of the total, depending on his generosity, and they must give all this to the priest, who will treat it as sacred and only eat it while ritually clean and not share it at all. It's a quote. But now the farmer isn't done once he's done that. He must then separate out 1/10 of the rest and give it to a Levite or member of the tribe of Levi. These were the politicians and the religious administrators. The Levite then had to take 1/10 of his share, so 1/10 of 1/10, and give it back to the priest, who would treat it as sacred and only eat it while ritually clean and not share it at all. This is getting complicated. The poor farmer still wasn't done. Then he had to take 1/10 of what he had left and take it to Jerusalem, where it had to be eaten in a sacred way by law. Every 3rd and 6th year, the farmer had to give this 1/10 away to the poor and not eat it himself in a sacred way. The poor could eat it any way they liked. And when you've gotten all that figured out, you had merely completed your temple obligation. You hadn't done anything about generosity. Confusion about how much to pay or what generosity means makes it a challenge. So even in the ancient world, those fleeing advanced giving mathematics got no luckier when they turned to other gods. The sun god, Shemesh, wanted 1/10 of everything you had, everything. Bel, Nabu, and Nergal were the same. Ninurta wanted 1/10 of your product, harvest, and asked for the tax of the gardener. No one knows what that means, but it sounded threatening. The lady of Uruk took her 1/10 and actually sent nasty letters to those who didn't pay. We have preserved clay tablets written in Sumerian that ask, "Tell me why you did not pay my tithe." These are some of the earliest writing examples. Are people grumbling at members of their cult for not paying? It got worse. By 200 CE, Mithras and Jesus were duking it out across the Mediterranean. Christianity was growing as Zoroastrianism began to fade. The early Christians just held all their property in common. The followers of Mithras gave a tithe and sacrificed bulls, red wine, and gold. And believe it or not, the pain you feel by pulling your hairs out one at a time. That was an actual sacrifice demanded by Mithras. Aren't you glad you're Unitarian Universalists? Being uncomfortable with how your money is used or having your offering actually hurt you also makes giving a challenge. Over the next 1,000 years, Christianity won out. Ritual offertory hair yanking faded into the past. But the age of cathedral building began. These were the dark ages of Christianity. The churches of the Middle Ages needed gold. Tithes were demanded, not asked for. Those who didn't cough it up were hounded mercilessly. The Crusades had cost the church heavily. It's not cheap to send thousands of men and horses to Jerusalem to try to seize land. And then Pope Urbain came up with a grand idea to make money. He granted all the crusaders complete lifetime penance in return for the holy war they'd been sent on. It was a papal indulgence. If you've never heard of these were not wonderful. He essentially told a whole bunch of undereducated, frighteningly testosterone-soaked, really violent men who he was sending to war that no matter what you do, you're forgiven forever. You have bought your way out of purgatory. You can imagine the responsible and thoughtful behavior of those people from that point outward. Indulgences became normal and widely abused. Rich people realized they could buy their way out of hell. The Crusades were over, but local priests and bishops started to sell pardons for specific sins. And you no longer had to go to a holy war, you just had to pay money. Being threatened or shamed if you don't give the right amount makes giving a challenge. Being sold salvation for the amount you give makes giving an obscenity. Indulgences ended about 450 years ago, but we've inherited that world. Anybody know who Robert Tilton is? Anybody ever seen him? He's a televangelist. He will tell you, if you send him just $10, you will get a blessed prayer string. Blessed prayer string. Whole string, just for you. If you send him 100, you'll get a 2-inch wide blessed prayer cloth, which will heal you and all those you love. For 1,000, you get a bottle of holy water, instructions on how to use it, and a bill for 5,000 more as quickly as you can pay it. Creflo Dollar is another mega preacher, and he's more specific. Send money, I want a jet. Point blank, no fibbing. Send money, God wants me to have a jet. His church worked hard last year. They bought him a jet. Being told you owe someone something or that giving big will keep good things happening for you makes giving both a challenge and a mockery. And then you have us, the Unitarian Universalist, FUCDM. We own, or at least the bank owns, our lovely building. We have 17 people or so on our payroll. We pay our bills. We pay on time to our vendors, the utilities, the UUA. We buy supplies. We support other not-for-profits and social justice causes. We offer some awesome programming. Classes for children and adults at little or no cost. Music, movies and forums, Sunday services. We have a website. We record our services so people outside can hear them. And every penny that you pay for anything goes to support your church. There's no jet sitting in the parking lot. But the eternal question remains, how do you decide how much to give? I don't want you to give based on some complex formula calculated to support the staff and allow you not to starve, that enforces a code of behavior. If your calculations involve figuring out 1/40th, 50th, or 60th of anything, please stop. Please. There's no magic formula. The amount you give is the right amount because you gave it. There's no ratio that's specific. Bell, Nergal, Shamash, and all the rest got over their stone tablets a long time ago. I'm a little busy to send out 500 emails. Please don't pluck any hair out of anything. You won't be threatened or shamed. You won't be sold salvation. I'd like you to give for two reasons. One is practical and one's theological. Practically, I want you to give because you like it here and you want us to keep the doors open. You want a place to come where people want you for who you are, a place where you can ask hard questions and argue thoughtfully over important issues. A place where your children can learn the values you believe in, where you can find and hold your center even when life gets rough, a place where there's like-minded people. That's the practical piece. You give because it's yours, just the way you pay your rent or your house payment at home or go buy groceries. You give because our bill collectors have an ugly way of saying, "In God we trust, all others pay cash," and that includes y'all. But theologically, you give because generosity isn't about helping the other person or the institution or even paying bills. Generosity is about doing it for you. Generosity is about reminding yourself over and over that there's more to the world than you, that you're connected to everything, and that reaching out is as essential as breathing. Giving isn't something you do for the other. Giving's something you're allowed to do to benefit yourself. In the February 2016 volume of Touchstones, Reverend Kirk Lodeman Copeland wrote, in the Christian Bible, Paul listed generosity as a fruit of the Spirit, but generosity is a fruit of gratitude. In Judaism, tzedakah, a Hebrew word, is equated with charity. The word, however, this act of kindness, combines generosity with justice. Ironically, such giving is understood to spiritually benefit the giver more than the recipient. Tzedakah is similar to one of the 5 pillars of Islam, which is zakat. It refers to charity, but it also means purification and growth. In Buddhism, the practice of giving and the virtue of generosity is called dana. It's one of the 10 perfections. At its essence, it's considered to be revolutionary because it is giving freely without any expectation of receiving something in return. That idea of making money not the important part, breaking that value. All of it implies generosity is a spiritual practice. In my own words, I don't want a jet. I want our church to be a place that you need it to be. Give generously for yourself and for everyone else. Fill out your pledge card. Remind your friends to fill theirs out because this is your house. This is your place. And remember, generosity is absolutely relative. For some people, $1 or $5 or $10 a month is a huge sacrifice, and it is unbelievably generous, and we honor it. Don't measure yourself against others. The amount that makes up generous will differ from person to person. If the amount you pledge is under $20 a month, consider adding $1 or $5 or $10. The cost of a couple cups of Starbucks, but if you can't, that's okay. We're not selling religion. If you don't even notice what you're giving, consider doubling it. Triple it if you feel so moved. For anybody quadrupling your pledge, I will not only send you 3 personalized indulgences, but a sacred string, a bottle of holy water, and an entire pan of homemade baklava and marshmallows. I mean it. You quadruple it, I'll be making it. Raising funds for a church has always been a bit of a challenge, but I think we can do it. Live generously for all of us, and blessed be.